My name is Kenyera Ligon, and I'll be interviewing Miss Charlotte Bryant, and we'll be talking about her previous experience at Texas Southern. Mrs. Bryant, when and where were you born?
I'm Charlotte Kelly Bryant. I was born here in Houston, Texas in 1930.
1930.
Yes.
What do you remember? Well, do you have any specific memories of your teenage years where you were discriminated against?
No,
No.
no, things were quite different in those days. Uh, you accepted whatever was going on in your life as a child. Your parents were not only nurturing but also protective. And it's a strange thing about life. If you've never done something, you don't miss it. And so my friends all went to a certain school, so I went to a certain school. But as a child growing up, there was a school that was not introduced into my life because of obvious reasons. But it was just introduced, told, we're going to be going to this school. This is the school you're going to go to, you know? And that's the way it was. Hi. Just stop me. Well, it's like, this is the way it is. You know? So, as far as going to college is concerned, I was glad to go to Texas Southern University. Of course, it was called Texas State College of Negroes. And the year I started in 51, they changed it to Texas Southern University. But I had really good experiences all through my life. I had a really good life. You know? My dad only made something a very small salary because he was a laborer. But everybody that I went to school with looked about the same, so we didn't really know how poor we were. You know? And because my dad worked at a poultry and packing house, had plenty of food all the time. We were always fat. You know? And I think maybe it was my early teens where I realized we were poor. Because it really wasn't necessary to know that you were not poor.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, we rode to church in a car. We had an automobile. We had a lavish a lot of clothes. My mother made most of the things. But I really didn't know that we were poor as we were back in the teens.
You're comfortable?
Very comfortable. Because I didn't look any different than anybody else. You know? You know, so, and then too, I think race, excuse me, in an atmosphere that everybody else is about the same as you are. You don't notice there's no difference, so you don't notice the difference. The biggest difference I've seen during the early days were mine. I'll say mine. Nothing. Texas, we were in Houston. We were fortunate we didn't have a lot of strikes and stuff. And then I think my parents taught us how to live and how not to get in trouble, and how not to ask for trouble. You know, because there's a certain way to live where you asking for trouble. Right?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, yes, I was going to go to Texas Southern if I could. I knew my parents couldn't afford to send me, so I had to work my way through college. You know? So there was nothing different about that. So,
What jobs did you have?
oh, I worked everything. I worked in kitchens, scrubbed the floor, iron, just everything. In fact, in the neighborhood I lived in, I used to work after college. Hello, how are you? So now you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not that it wasn't there. It's always been there, but it's like anything else. The sun comes up in the east, goes down in the west. You just accept it that way, and you concentrate on what you're supposed to. And then two, I think has to do with the individual, the person. Maybe somebody else that lived next door. You did my own family. We have different answers. But I've always been a person who was kind of do what I need to do. You know, and nothing holds me back. They slow me down, but I ain't gonna stop. When I was going to, what was it, Booker Washington, Texas Southern University. I was very pleased. I had a wonderful time there. I had a great time there. I was Texas Southern's first medical technologist.
Really?
Yeah, because I.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Looks like the holidays around here.
Oh, that's right. It's getting better all the time. Before I forget, Mr. Jolivet, Nisha told me to please ask you to go upstairs. Going to Texas Southern is not like going to Texas Southern today. The Fairchild Building, the Hannah Hall Building were the only two buildings.
Really?
All my chemistry classes were in, we call them shacks, temporary buildings, you know, and all those wonderful dormitories and stuff. No, we had dormitories. The only dormitory that was there was for football players. We call it the Onion because it smelled like it. And so we all lived off campus. Of course, I lived at home. You know? And I had gotten married and had a little girl. So things were the way they were. Took classes. Let me tell you, registration for me, even with my chemistry classes and labs, was $130. That was a whole lot of money in those days. A lot. I worked after school in the neighborhood where I now live. I think I made $5 in my bus fare. So by the time I would finish paying registration, then I started paying for my books. And they were always secondhand books because I was looking for them all the time. I don't think I remember buying anything new. I was always looking for secondhand books because that saved money.
Mm-hmm.
And the class before you was always able to sell the books because they would buy some books for the next one. And because it was a small campus, we just knew everybody and it was fun. It was like one big old family, you know, we had a good time.
Good time.
Classes were tough. Never was easy, ever. I noticed when I went back to my master's degree, people began to smoke in class. We didn't smoke in class. There was no such thing as that.
They were able to smoke in class?
They did when I was in my graduate class. I knew they were smoking because I could see it on
On the desk.
the desk. Not in the classes I attended, but I could see the evidence that they had been because I could see the marks on the desk. You know? That was a big difference. Because see, I finished in '55 and I went back to get a master's degree. It was in '70. So it was quite a different time, quite a long period. But registration was unique in that there was no such thing as computers. So you stood in line for hours getting registered, for hours getting your books and stuff like that. You know, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the old annuals or not, but you see the people in line all across the campus. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen that.
Oh, baby. And sometimes you would get right to the bursar's office and they'd say, it's 2 o'clock. You'd be going to lunch.
So you have to wait.
So when we get some sodas, I think my big lunch was RC Cola and Lance cookies, all within 25 cents. And I was back in that line. I had to get done, you know. I'll pay late registration. Excuse me. But I truly enjoyed my college days. It was wonderful. And I'm still hanging with some of my college friends. In fact, 3 or 4 of them along with me on this building. I think I told you that once before, didn't I?
Yes.
All good friends. And just, it was great.
Do you have any mentors you remember from Texas Southern?
Well, we had advisors. The advisor to my chemistry class was the only one I actually needed and used because I needed to pass that chemistry class. Experiences in segregated situations. You know, we are nurturing type of people who need to be nurtured. They're not always being taught what is going to be required and requested. Even in your experiences of your years, I'm sure you recognize that the way in which questions are asked on tests are not the way in which we that's a hindrance. So you need the nurturing kind of setting. That's why I'm happy to see my grandchildren go to Prairie View, because it's a more nurturing society for them. You know, I've had my granddaughter to go to other schools in New York, California, and it's very much of a struggle because I wasn't used to the way it was being